What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today with me, I got Matt Gilligan. He runs the Orphan radio podcast. We're going to talk about his first horror movie, among other things. Matt, how you been doing, man?
Good, laying low, working from home, and I definitely need a haircut. It's been about 6 months. So how are you doing? Everything good with you?
Oh, man, everything's great. Being able to talk to some people that I really respect and admire about their horror movies, which is something that I never thought I'd be able to do. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
What's going on with the future for you? What do you got? I know things are kind of crazy right now, but
not a whole lot. Just my job is I write and edit for websites from home, so it's the same for me, which I'm thankful for. So just working and staying away from people, and I mean, not really doing a whole lot. Watching movies, reading, doing some podcast episodes when I have extra time, and that's pretty much.
Well, and I appreciate it. And thank you also. I don't know if you know this or not. My wife is a respiratory therapist, so the fact that you're social distancing really does mean a lot to me, because the less people that are doing it, the more chance my wife has of getting infected. So thank you for doing your part and trying to keep everybody healthy, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, the Orphan Radio podcast, can you tell us a little bit about that and where people can listen to you at?
Sure. Something I do in my spare time. I started about, it's been 9 years now. And just do it for fun on the side. I like the production work, but also I do interviews and just episodes with friends and got some cool, you see the Toxic Avenger over my shoulder. Lloyd Kaufman's been on the show. That was really cool. And a bunch of other people I like music, movies, writers, stuff like that. So, do that. It's orphanradio.podbean.com. I think I keep getting kicked off of Apple Podcasts and things like that because I play copyrighted songs, so I don't think you're allowed to do that. So hopefully at least get the interview episodes on Spotify soon, so people can listen to those.
That's awesome, man. And it is always cool. Like I said, even for me, like having you on right now is so special to me. Thank you. And I know how that feeling is when you get a musician or somebody on to come and talk with you on your podcast. So I hope the best for you. I hope we can get you a couple more guests on there. Everybody that's listening, go check that out. Something you should definitely go check out. But today we are ready to talk about your first horror movie. Something we discussed is we're not sure if this is your first one, but the first one that comes to mind to you that you remember, and that would be
the original Evil Dead from 1981.
And what a hell of a way to start, man.
Yeah. Should I just jump into how it happened?
Let's go, man. Absolutely.
Okay, so I think I was about 7, and it was in Illinois where we lived, and I was homesick one day from school, and everybody was gone, so I was alone in the house. Probably 2nd grade, I'm guessing, but I have a brother who's 9 years old, and the night before he had rented movies, and so they popped that in. It was like a gloomy, Midwestern day, so perfect for watching a horror movie. And
sure,
it was Evil Dead, and it just blew my mind. I had never seen anything that gory, that bloody, that disturbing. And I watched it again last night just so I could have a refresher. A few years. So it was cool to see it again last night. But yeah, I mean, it really did it was scary to see something that gory and bloody and everything. And the special effects, when you look back at them now, they're, what they did with that budget too is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And you're talking about how it's scary then, but I try to explain this to my son, who has grown up watching Saw and things of that nature, trying to explain to him how scary Evil Dead and Jaws were to us when we were younger. Like you watch them now and sure, it's a little dated and the practical effects don't look as great, but man, I would take Evil Dead and Jaws over some of the CGI stuff that's out today all the time.
Totally. I don't even really, I'm trying to think over the past 15 years, there's not even really that many horror movies that I've loved. but the ones that I'm sure you're roughly in the same age group as I am, but the stuff we grew up on, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, like that stuff to me, I mean, I have really great memories of seeing some of those for the first time too. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't need the really, there was a movie on last night called The Collection that I just happened to catch the last 20 minutes of. And it was like almost as kind of like torture,
Yeah.
I guess. And like, I don't know. I just, that stuff just doesn't do it for me.
See, I can't lie. I am a big fan of The Collector and The Collection, and they actually got a new one coming out called The Collected. But I'm with you, and I've talked about that on my channel. I'm not too into the torture porn aspect of horror. Give me something, like you said, like with Nightmare on Elm Street, or even the first Texas Chainsaw. If you go back and watch that, it's not too blood and guts and torture porn. There's a lot of almost Hitchcocky, and let's look at the shadow and let your imagination run wild on what's happening. And growing up for me, I think your imagination's way scarier than anything they can put on a screen.
Oh yeah. And the first time I saw Texas Chainsaw was at a sleepover when I was probably 9 or 10. And I mean, that almost looked like it almost looked like a documentary, or like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrifying. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite movies ever.
I don't want to go too far into it because we are talking about Evil Dead, but something that this is something I will die on this hill. The actress in that movie, everybody called Jamie Lee Curtis the Scream Queen, but damn, dude, if you watch that dinner scene in Texas Chainsaw where she's just and I think that was only 1 or 2 takes that they filmed that in, and that scene I've always thought of her really as the Scream Queen because that scene makes me so damn uncomfortable. The way that they're just laughing and she's doing those blood curdling screams at the table. And that's one of the movies that to me really, really affected me as a kid, because like you said, when you're young, especially me and you, basically the same age group, we didn't have a bunch of crazy CGI. So this stuff that looked really realistic, the practical effects as kids, that it seemed more real to us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because it wasn't completely, E.T. I thought was real for the longest time.
Yeah.
So scenes like that in Texas Chainsaw and even Evil Dead. Unfortunately, I didn't see Evil Dead till later in life. I wish it was something I would have watched when I was younger, but I love, absolutely adore the Evil Dead series. It's something I've been very vocal about for a long time, and I'm actually a huge fan of the Evil Dead remake. I don't know if yeah, I thought it was extremely intelligent. The reason they went to the cabin, the reason they didn't have their cell phones, it all made sense. It wasn't just your typical, hey, let's go out and party and what happened? It was extremely intelligent. So Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell did a great job on that remake.
Yeah, I loved it too. Who was the director? I don't remember.
I can't remember his name either right now, and I knew you were going to ask, but he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's a great one.
So while we're on Evil Dead, though, got to ask you real quick before we get into any other questions. Evil Dead 1, Dead by Dawn, Army of Darkness, or the remake, which one's your favorite?
I think my favorite one to watch is probably part 2. I mean, Bruce Campbell in that one is almost like a Buster Keaton movie or something. Like his physical comedy and everything. I mean, there's still a lot of gore and blood, but his physical comedy is just totally taken to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hilarious. And great. It looks great. The camera work is awesome. So part 2 for me is definitely my favorite.
I'm with you because it's Evil Dead 1 is just, to me, it kind of, Evil Dead 1 is your strict horror movie. 2 is kind of your horror comedy. And then Army of Darkness to me has no aspect of horror. To me, it's more like a fantasy. But I think 2 is the perfect mix of horror comedy. Being young and watching it, I was scared, but I remember laughing when he's dancing with the lamp in the living room.
Right.
So
the deer head comes alive, right?
Yeah. It turns towards him and like perfect movie, man. That's such a good movie.
Yeah.
So when you think of Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
For some reason, when I saw it when I was a little kid, the scene where the bodies kind of disintegrate towards the end, like after he's kind of defeated everybody, it's very, it's very like primitive CGI, almost like stop motion claymation kind of stuff. But it, like, I remember that scared the shit out of me for some reason. So that was the one that stuck in my head. And another scene that was always stuck in my head from when I was a little kid is when the girl, Ash's girlfriend, got stabbed in the ankle with a pencil. And I don't know if you've seen, but it was just like, I don't think I saw anything like that again until the cutting of the Achilles tendon in the original Pet Cemetery, which is a horrible scene to watch too. So.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because later on we'll talk about it. We'll get more in depth later on when it comes to CGI and practical effects. But I bring that scene up on every single episode almost, because I love the practical effects when Gage cuts the tendon and then bites the neck out. You know, like, I think the practical effects there are great. Something that you just brought up in this movie, we were talking about your favorite scenes, the claymation almost. As kids, one scene from a movie that scared me, that wasn't a horror movie, and it kind of has the same effect, was Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the Large Marge scene.
Oh yeah,
when,
yeah.
You know, and that's what this reminds me of. So when you see this as a kid and you see these bodies melting away, you're just like, what the fuck is this? It's terrifying, man.
And last night, when I watched it again last night, I forgot about, like, with all the dissolving and stuff, they actually had like real bugs and cockroaches in there and stuff too. So I don't know, bugs in horror movies always kind of frighten me. Like the first Creep Show, there's that segment with the bugs, and just like that stuff, just, I don't know. Arachnophobia, I remember seeing that in the theater, and that is just, spiders are just terrifying to me.
For about 10 years after, I would check my shoes before I put them on after arachnophobia, man.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. That's that Creep Show and arachnophobia, man. I could talk to you for hours about each of those.
Yeah, I love both of them too. It's been a while since I've seen them, but definitely a fan.
I watch Creep Show every Father's Day. That's my Father's Day movie, man. I want my cake, you know.
Right, nice.
So with Evil Dead, is this a movie that you've watched, you think, repeatedly throughout your lifetime, or is this one of those that you'll just maybe occasionally go back to, or is this like a must-watch once a year type movie?
No, every once in a while. I mean, watching it last night was probably the first time I had seen it. I mean, it had probably been like at least 10 years. And
Sure.
But I did still remember almost every scene. I mean, I would guess that I've seen it in my lifetime probably 8 or 9 times. So nothing too. There's some horror movies that I've probably seen 50 times. You know.
Sure.
So it's not one of those, but you know, enough to know it.
So with another question I asked, this was your first horror movie that comes to mind. I'm going to go scream on you here. What's your favorite scary movie? What do you think your favorite horror movie is?
Probably Halloween.
The original?
Yeah, 1978. Like, during the Halloween season and during October, I watch it every time it's on. And it's on that entire month, basically.
Sure.
Of October. So that movie is just, I've been to the house in LA where they filmed it. Made it a point to get my picture in front of there a few times. And that movie, I mean, it was so low budget. And music's great, obviously. It's just, I love that movie. I love the way it looks. It's still scary. I mean, it's still creepy after watching it for the 50th time, you know?
Oh, yeah. And especially, I was never too into the Halloween franchise. It's something that I didn't watch it really as a kid. And funny enough, my favorite one is Season of the Witch. That's my movie I watch every Halloween. But I respect the shit out of Halloween, because without Halloween, you don't have probably 95% of the slashers that you have today. You know? Yeah,
definitely.
And I loved Halloween 2018. While we're talking about remakes, I thought they did a great job with that movie.
That was last night, and I watched about 45 minutes of it last night. Yeah, I liked it too. I definitely did not like the Rob Zombie versions. I wasn't feeling those at all. But I was excited when I heard that David Gordon Green and Danny McBride were going to do something new with Halloween. And I think they've already shot another one, or maybe even 2 more.
Yeah, Halloween Kills is supposed to, I don't know what's going on with it now, but it was supposed to come out in October. Obviously with COVID, you know, everything's kind of up in the air, but and I agree with you on the Rob Zombies. I actually did on my channel a 31 and 31. It happened on social media, so it's kind of choppy. but I ranked the Halloweens, Nightmare on Elm Streets, and Friday the 13th in order from 31 to 31. And the Rob Zombie ones were pretty low on that list because to me it was just, the Devil's Rejects with Michael Myers, and I mean the original one he did was okay. After you got past the first half to third to half of the movie, the last half was pretty good. But the Halloween 2 he did with all the ghost mom, and it seemed like almost like the whole movie was like a music video almost.
Yeah. I actually think my favorite movie of his is Lords of Salem because it's like a little more subdued and kind of more atmospheric and not just craziness,
Yep. And again, respect to Rob Zombie. His movies are a little too out there for me, man. The one way you can turn me off of a movie, I can watch pretty much anything while we're talking about Evil Dead, one of the scenes I can't do the rape scene, man. I can't. It makes me physically uncomfortable. At least with Evil Dead, you don't see really, like, as a kid, I had no idea that was a rape scene. I had no idea what was going on there.
Yeah, me neither.
So but when you get too much into that, that's the one thing that I can't handle it. So that's one thing that with Evil Dead, at least you could watch that movie and not really understand what's happening during that scene. As an adult, it clicks with you what's happening. But as a kid, I had no fucking clue. I was like, oh, she's getting attacked by a tree and now she's running away. That's as far as I went.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. Yeah.
So when we were talking about, while we're on that, what is your favorite scene? Like one scene you have to choose from Evil Dead. What do you think your favorite scene is? I know we talked about how the ending scene really stuck with you, but your favorite scene in the whole film?
I think the part where he straps his girlfriend down with the chains and stuff, and he thinks of, he gets out the chainsaw, and then he's like, oh, I just have to bury her. I can't do this to her. And when he takes her out there and starts to bury her, and then she comes alive, and you remember he has to cut her head off with a shovel, and just like,
yeah,
that whole sequence is pretty great.
Yeah. And that's one of those that I'm glad because to me, Evil Dead 2 is almost like a hard reboot of Evil Dead 1.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And I love that they kept that in there. They took out a lot from Evil Dead 1 into Evil Dead 2, but they left that because that was super iconic to me as well. Have you ever seen the Evil Dead musical that they do?
I haven't, no.
Man, if you get the chance, I recommend it strongly. For my first wedding anniversary, my wife took me. We went to Detroit, a Michigan guy, and we got to see it. And man, I would strongly recommend it. They nail it. It's hilarious. They have a section right in the middle, about the first probably 15 rows, which is like a blood splatter area where you get blood splatter. It's cool as hell, man. If you get the chance to ever check out the Evil Dead musical, please check it out. I promise you won't regret it.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I would love to.
Oh man, and they bring in the characters from 1 and 2. So like even the crazy guy that ends up, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head in Evil Dead 2, but he ends up carrying all her baggage when they lead her out to the cabin. And It's such a fun time, man. They make their own story out of it. We kind of touched on it earlier though, practical effects versus CGI. What's your take on that? Do you prefer practical effects or are you more of a CGI guy?
Definitely the practical effects. Again, I back my brain and I can't think of anything over the past several years that I've that's really stood out. I did like the new Halloween, like you said, that was good. But I'm definitely practical effects for sure.
Yeah. See, when we're talking about horror movies that have come out recently, a lot of the found footage films, man. I don't know if you got Amazon Prime or Shudder, but you should check out. I just did an episode with the Fraser Park Recut cast. You should check out Fraser Park Recut. That's a really good thriller. Kind of one of the creepiest movies I've seen in probably the last 20 years. Great. And then She Walks the Woods. If that's another one, I had Danny Bonin on the channel. If you get a chance to check that one out as well, they're both on Amazon Prime. She Walks the Woods is more your straight horror movie, but man, the third act in She Walks the Woods, it gets you, man. Like it's one of those movies where you're like, what's really going on here? Then you get to the third act, you're like, oh shit. I'm with you, man. It's kind of hard, and I think because the amount of remakes they do, we don't have very many original ideas that come out anymore in the horror genre.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to fall. And I like a lot of the remakes. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, remake bad. But it's really hard to come out and fall in love with a remake when you are in love with the original so much. So you don't get that feeling of adrenaline with a remake because you kind of have an idea of what's going on. I was a huge fan of Get Out. I don't know if you consider that a horror movie or not, but I was Get Out.
Oh yeah, Get Out was good.
Mm-hmm. Us was cool.
I haven't seen that one yet. You know what's one? This is probably 10 years old by now, but I liked House of the Devil.
Okay.
That was a good one. I never saw his other movie, Innkeepers, or his second movie. I don't know if you saw either of those. Oh, you haven't seen House of the Devil?
I've seen House of the Devil.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, I try, and I'm also kind of a sucker for Shudder films, man. I love going on Shudder. They had a movie called Z recently. I thought that was really good. But I've always been kind of more of a fan, like you said, the low budget stuff. Evil Dead, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, they had a embarrassingly small budget for that movie, but they did it so well you didn't know it. Same thing with Halloween. When you get these low budget starter films that just turn into, you do it right and you get huge with it. And that's a thing that we're just talking remakes. I think that we lose a lot of originality because remake studios, we might miss out on the next big, what could be a Ghostbusters or could be a Halloween because they want to go right to a remake instead. And it sucks, man. Again, I am entertained by remakes, but you're not going to see me absolutely fall completely head over heels with a remake because you know what's going on.
Oh, I know. Like Flanagan director, he seems like he's doing some pretty, I guess he made that Hush. Did you see Hush?
Mm-mm.
So he's like a newer name in horror, I guess, last 10 years. The stuff I've seen from him looks pretty good.
Okay. I'm going to have to check Hush.
Hush, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept. If it's about a deaf woman who is a writer, she's out.
Oh, yeah. I think I did see that. And the guy comes to her cabin and he's trying to get. That is a great movie, man.
Yeah, that was good. And
God,
I'm trying to remember what else, but I think that guy is kind of like a rising horror director. I can't remember the last thing he did, but yeah, that was good.
Yeah, see, I didn't know what the name of that. I think I caught that film with just a buddy one night, and I didn't know what the name of it was. But the way that he shot that film to show that you knew the scenes where she couldn't hear what was going on, and you're right. The direction in that movie was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, really good, and obviously pretty low budget too, like all one location.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. Oh, yeah, it's so cool. My boyfriend will be here soon. Yeah, I love that movie, man. I'm so glad you said that because now I got the title of it. I'm going to watch that again. So Evil Dead, obviously, I can't talk about a horror movie without your favorite kill. What do you think your favorite kill, or let's go with your favorite possession, I guess, your favorite Deadite turn in that movie?
Well, when I think back to the first time I saw it when I was a little kid, the first girl who gets possessed, and her name escapes me right now. Was it? I don't know. Do you know it? Do you remember?
It was Ash's sister.
Right. Because she's the one who's there without a boyfriend.
Yeah.
That was another scene that always kind of scared me as a kid, really stuck in my head after I saw it for the first. Her, pushing the cellar door up and trying to get out. And so her, she's like the iconic possession of that movie for me. The other people are good too, though.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with her too is you have the scene where she's like, I'm okay now, Ashley. You can let me out. And you can see him struggling, not knowing. Even as young kids, like, oh shit, maybe she's all right now. And that goes with Sam Raimi's writing, because I am a Sam Raimi fan as well. A movie he did that a lot of people shit on. I love to Drag Me to Hell. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times. I like that one too.
Yeah. And even in that movie, you feel a huge Evil Dead influence on that movie too. With some of the comedy that's in it and some of the possession angles in that movie. But that part, when we're talking about the scenes to me that really freaked me out as a kid, I'd have to go with that one for me. When she comes back and she's like, I'm all right now, Ashley. You can open the cellar. and he's kind of like freaking out, not knowing if he should actually do it. That's the scene that really stuck with me growing up that I thought was really, really awesome.
Yeah, sure.
Ouch. So we got that. With Evil Dead, is this a movie that we talked about how you did enjoy the remake? You got to sit down, you got to choose. You like the remake or the original more? Which one are you putting in if you got to choose one to watch?
I mean, I'd have to go with the original. Like, and I need to see the remake again. I did like it the when I saw it, but I mean, the original. There's the grittiness of it. You know, the low budget. And it's kind of another thing I noticed about it last night is they must have taken a break in the middle of that, or maybe it took a year to finish it, or a year and a half, or something, because Bruce Campbell looks older in the second half. You know, the last quarter of the movie than he does in the beginning. So I'm sure they, you know, needed to raise more money and later.
Well, I think they filmed that when they were in college. I think that was, if I remember correctly, they were all in college filming it. So that would make sense as to where they had to take breaks upon filming.
Yeah, I keep answering your questions in super roundabout ways. Sorry, but
no, dude, it's awesome.
My answer is definitely that I the original, but I do want to see the remake again because it's been. I mean, that's got to be 10 years old by now, probably, right?
Yeah.
And I only saw it the one time in the theater, and I did like it, but I need to go back.
Well, and I don't know if you've seen, but Bruce Campbell did announce that they are doing another new one, Evil Dead Rises.
I didn't see that, and I also still haven't seen Ash vs. Evil Dead, the series, yet, which I really need to.
You need to watch the first 2 seasons.
Okay.
You could stop there.
Yeah. It's on Stars or ours.
What's that?
I think is it on Stars? Is that the network? Okay.
Yep. I think it's done now. Actually, I think it's over.
Oh, okay.
But the first 2 seasons are absolutely phenomenal. They keep towards the end of season 2, you kind of fall into like a repetitive nature, and they kind of go a little too overboard to me, just my opinion. But it's something the first 2 seasons I would watch again, absolutely, in a heartbeat.
Yeah, definitely need to, for sure.
And I think you had a pretty cool story about meeting Bruce Campbell, right?
Yeah, I did. This is in 2002 in Chicago, and there was like a horror movie convention kind of thing where you can go, you know, you've probably been to some of those, I'm imagining.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was one of those in 2002 in Chicago, and it was when his first book came out, If Chins Could Kill. Yeah. So if you could buy the book, and that included a signature and getting your picture with him. And so, but he was super cool because there was a long line, but he took a few minutes to like chat with everybody who came up. And I was a production assistant at the time. I had only lived in Chicago for a few months, and he's like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" Like he was more interested in me than I was to talking to him, and told him what I did. And he's like, "Oh, that's how I started out, as a production assistant." So we talked about that for a while, and like super, super cool guy. So.
See, and that makes you appreciate him more too, just knowing that he's such a genuine, down-to-earth guy that you really want to root for him. You know, you want things to go great for him in his career because of how great he is to you.
Yeah. Oh man, you can tell he's just like a cool Midwestern, down-to-earth guy for sure.
That's so awesome, man. So that's on the bucket list, man. So I'm glad you got to meet him. One thing I usually end these episodes with, skulls. We rank out of 0 to 5 skulls, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. What would you rank Evil Dead now?
Can I do half skulls or just full?
100% yes.
I mean, there are a couple parts, especially watching it again last night, there are a couple parts where it's drags, nothing too crazy. But because they were so, they were like a group of kids, like you were saying, they were young people just who came together to make this thing. I say I would give it 4 skulls. I was gonna do 3.5, but I just bumped it up to 4.
I'm actually gonna stick with your first. I go 3.5 on this one because you're right. There are parts where you can see a first-time filmmaker, some of the cast very first time. But again, this is a movie that I think is so important in the horror genre. Because without this, Evil Dead 2. Everybody knows Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and the effects, my boomstick. You know what I mean? Like, such an important thing. And even the video games, man, these are some fun. I don't know if you ever played any of the Evil Dead video games, but man, they are fun. They are some fun games.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And I was thinking about it last night too. When that came out in 1981, I know it kind of became like a midnight movie, sort of like on the midnight movie circuit. Like, it must have been really amazing to see it almost 40 years ago now, like there just hadn't been those, like anything that gory that I know of in
Right.
1981.
Oh, there were countries that movie was banned in.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's something that I think the tree scene had a little bit to do with that as well. But there was a lot of countries where they were like, we're good. So, and it's something that that had to make Sam Raimi. I mean, I think a bunch of people would probably be bummed, but you just made a film in college that has such and now it's more than a cult classic, man. It's just a classic.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like I got the DVD downstairs. I'm a big physical media guy, so I always got to buy it. I love watching the special features and just listening to them talk about that movie on the director's commentary. You hear how much that movie truly meant to these people.
Yeah, definitely. And you said you're a Michigan guy too, so it's they're all Michigan people, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, man. That's when we went and watched the musical. Everybody was shop smart, shop S-Mart here in Dearborn, Michigan. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that we all, it's one of those things that watching it as a kid, that's one thing that caught your eye too. The girl, Shelly, I think was her name. She had on the Michigan State sweatshirt. You're like, hey, I know them.
Yeah, that's really cool. I don't know why, a little research last night, and I wonder why they picked Tennessee to film it. I don't know the whole behind why they picked that location.
I mean, it's a great location. Unfortunately, I think I'm not 100% sure. You did research last night. Maybe you'll know. I think the cabin's torn down now, isn't it?
I saw this is several years ago, but there was only like pieces of the chimney were still left. So I'm sure those have been scavenged by now by like records and stuff.
Oh, super fans have definitely got pieces of that house and chimney in their houses now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because like you said, you went to that, the Halloween house. That's usually everybody wants to go, the Nightmare house, the Halloween house, the Evil Dead house. Those are iconic scenes, iconic locations. I think any horror fan walking down any street that had the Halloween house, the Nightmare house, or even the cabin, you would know right away, hey, I know that house.
I don't know if you knew this, but the Halloween house and the Nightmare on Elm Street house are like they're in the same neighborhood. They're like a few blocks from each other.
I did not know that at all. See, I got to get out and see some of this stuff. Again, living in Michigan, it's hard to just be like, hey, let's go check these houses out in California.
Right, yeah.
But it's definitely something that I would love to check out because to me, I think Nightmare on Elm Street is the most iconic horror movie of all time when it comes to, the scenes. Like you got the waterbed scene, you got Tina and Rod, the going up the wall. Oh, yeah. Freddy walking with his arms down. I think Nightmare on Elm Street to me is about the best it gets when it comes to iconic in horror film.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of the original. The sequels, I mean, I never got super into the sequels. I like 3 and 4 enough, but the first one, I saw that at a very young age too, and that was a big one for me.
See, I did that. I was just telling you, I did that 31 and 31. Spoilers if you guys are planning on watching it. Nightmare 4 is my favorite of all the 31. Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare. It's the one that I grew up with. It's the one that that my mom showed me that one when I was a kid. I seen that before I even seen the original. So that's the one that really introduced me to Freddy Krueger. And as a kid, you think it's awesome because he's not too dark in that movie. He's kind of joking, but it's not as too far gone as like Freddy's dead. Yeah,
it got a little ridiculous towards the end for sure.
Oh, when he's playing the guy as a video game, good graphics. It definitely went over the top.
Yeah, it just took all the scare factor out of it.
Absolutely. So before we go, one last thing I've been asking everybody. I'm gonna start hearing probably, I'd say a couple months, I'm going to be starting a new segment called Coffee and Killers, where we will sit around, hang out, drink some coffee. And rather than talking about your first horror movie, we're going to choose a slasher film, your favorite slasher, hopefully, and just dissect the movie. What we love about it, what we hate about it. Is that something I could sucker you back into, have you back on an episode of that?
Sure, that sounds awesome for sure.
Awesome, man. All right, don't go anywhere. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We got some really cool guests coming up here in the next couple weeks. Again, thank you, Matt. Make sure you go check out the podcast, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.